So hello guys, welcome back to another video. So today we'll discuss a topic which is related to Cobol program. So we have a requirement today. The requirement is how to copy the first 10 records from an input file to an output file using Cobol program. How to copy the first 10 records from an input file to an output file using Cobol program. Now the input file may have 10 records, may not have, it may have less records also, it may have more records also. Now if it has less records, so if it has 6 or 7 records, then all of them should be copied. If it has more records, then the first 10 only should be copied to output file. Now this can be easily done with a JCL, but I'm talking in terms of COBOL concept, how you can do this in COBOL. Okay, this is not an exclusive requirement that you'll get. This may be a part of the requirement which you will get. So in a COBOL program, you may have to write many more different logics, but this logic also may be part of them. That is why you are incorporating it in a COBOL program only. Otherwise, it's if it is an exclusive uh, requirement, you can do it using JCL only. You don't need to write any COBOL program for that. So if you have any such requirement which you have to handle through COBOL program, this program will be helpful for you. Now, I'm sure you know the COBOL structure, where on the left hand side you will have some serial numbers. Those will be auto generated from the first position till sixth position. It will always be blank, if you can see. So these are first six positions which will always be blank in a COBOL program. Seventh position, if it is blank, it's a valid line. If it is star, it is a commented line. So always remember, in your COBOL programs there should be some kind of descriptions, because whenever you write a COBOL program and suppose after a few years you leave the company, someone else will come. He doesn't have to look into the whole program, so that he doesn't have to look into the entire program to understand the concept of the program. He can simply look at the description and he can understand. Now the first time when a program is written, this kind of descriptions, like 4 or 5 lines of descriptions you have to write, what this program is doing, who wrote this program, and on which day it was first written. So those kind of details, the next time when there are some changes done on this program, every time a new change is done, you should write the 2 3 lines. Whoever changes, he should write 2 3 lines about the change what he has done, and he should mention the whatever Jira number or something, whatever it is there through which he got the requirement. That requirement tag also he should provide as a reference, that because of this requirement only I made this change. So but here I have just simply put one line, copying first 10 records of input file to output. Okay, now I have not mentioned any author, installation, date compile, date written. Those are all optional lines, optional parameters. As you know, identification division is mandatory. Under identification division, only program ID is mandatory. Author, that means who has written the program, that is optional. Installation, for whom this program is getting written, that means your client name, you can write in short. Then date written, on which day this program was written, date compiled, on which day the program was compiled. Those are all optional, but we should actually write, but here I have not written, so it's okay. Now next is environment division. What is environment division? Whenever you use any file in your COBOL program, if you are using one file or multiple files, you have to always declare the files inside environment division. Now after inside environment division, you have one thing called input output section. Inside input output section, there is something called file control, where you will have to do the mapping of the files. Now what is this mapping? Many people have this confusion about select in file, assign. They just by heart that select in file assign to dd1, select out file assign to dd2. For in file input file, it should be in file. For output file, it should be output file. They don't understand the depth. So the thing is, whenever you write a COBOL program, first of all, you have to compile it. Then at the time of execution, if the COBOL program is using some files, those physical files you have to write in your execution JCL, right? Those are physical files. That means the data that you will be using in your COBOL program, from where you will copy the first 10 records, where will you get the data from? It should come from somewhere, right? It will always come through the JCL. That is why the physical files should be mentioned in the JCL. Since we are using two files, one is input file, one is output file, both the files have to be mentioned in JCL. Now, if you mention in the JCL, two files you mentioned, how will the system know which is input, which is output? How will it be mapped in the Cobol program? That is how why this mapping is done here under file control, that select in file assigned to DD1. That means in your execution JCL, whichever file comes under DD1 will be denoted as in file in your Cobol program. In your JCL, whichever file is declared as DD2 will be denoted as out file in the Cobol program. That means this is another name. You can use any name. It is not like in file out file. And also in file does not by default mean it is input file. Out file does not by default mean it is output file. You can interchange the name also. There is some other parameter which will decide which is input, which is output. Now, so that is why here the mapping is done, that whichever file is denoted, whichever file has DD name as DD1 in a JCL will be called as in file in the Cobol program. Whichever file has DD2 as DD name in the JCL will be called as out file in the Cobol program. Now, file declaration is done. Next is data division. Data division is, under data division we have to declare the file structure. So see, under data division there is something called file section, inside which I have to do this for both the files, fd in file, fd out file. The file structure I have to define. Now for input file I have taken a group variable in rec, under which I have taken five variables: in name, in salary, in id, in date, in mail. So name is 10 characters alphabetic, salary 5, indicator 1, date 10, mail 24, filler the 30, to make it total 80 characters. Similarly, out file also has a similar structure: out name, out salary, out indicator, out date, out mail, then filler. Okay. Here the name is wrong. I have given 3L, so it's okay. It will work anyway. It will be considered as a field only. Now after that, I have in working storage section, I have declared two variables. One is called WSA, another one is WSB. First one has a is alphanumeric, length is 1, value is n. Second one is numeric, length is 2, value zeros. Okay, that means second one I have initialized. Okay, now for what purpose I am using this, you will get to know in procedure division. So inside procedure division, first thing that you have to do is you have to open the files, because you have declared the file names, you have declared the structure of it. Now you have to open the file before using it. So here only it will be decided which one is input file, which one is output file. See, here I have written open input in file. That means this in file is your input file, because input files are always opened in input mode. Input means read only. That means whichever file you open in input mode will be considered as a read only file, and you can only read from that file, you cannot write. Out file means output means write only. That means in this file you can only write. So out file will be considered as an output file in your program, in file will be considered as an input file in your program. So these two parameters, mode of opening only, will decide which is input, which is output. After that, since I have opened, I have initialized outrec. Now what is outrec? If I go above, I can see outrec is the output file field name. Output file field name is called outrec, the group field name. Okay, now why I have initialized it? Because I'm going to move some data into it. Now initialization is a very important concept in mainframe. Whenever in iteration you are writing data in an output file, that means from you're reading from input writing to output, or you're reading from table writing to output, that time every time this output file data, this field name should be initialized, so that whenever a new value is getting moved, this output file is empty and new value is successfully moved. Otherwise what happens is, if you don't initialize, the older value may be present in that outrack, and the new value, this new move may fail. That means one record, if you move the first record to output file, and the second time when you try to move the second record to output file, second record move may fail, and the first record only may be moved the next time also. That means twice. That is how this problem may occur. That is why initialization is a very important concept. Sometimes if you don't initialize, there will be some strange errors, you'll not be able to find only the issue. Okay, now because I am going to move data from input to output. So before moving, after opening, I have first time initialized it